We work in the highest level prison in the state of Alabama. We house all type, from 6 months all the way up to death row. We have them all here.
The violence here, I don't really know how to explain it other than this is a breeding ground.
Donaldson's a pretty dangerous place. The chance of somebody being stabbed or killed is pretty much a common occurrence, as it were.
There we were in Alabama, a very strong Christian part of the country, in one of the United States' worst prisons, and we were teaching the teachings of the Buddha.
No one is telling them what to look at or how to change. They're gaining their insights within themselves.
Life without parole doesn't mean that you're to be punished or worked or any of that. It means you're to be warehoused till you die. This is my home, and I'm going to do what I can to help make it the best place it can be. I want a nice place to live, too.
The best way to describe a prison is to think of it as a small city. Your correctional officers are your police force. I'm the mayor. Just like you have people that are of great influence on the street, you have inmates in here of great influence with other inmates. You have organized crime inside of a prison that are controlling illicit activities, from prostituting inmates to drugs to gambling. And that's a constant battle for us to keep under control.
What you got out here is 500 inmates. 4 dormitories this way with 110 per dorm, and B dorm with 116 down here. That's Tower 4. That's the sally port where any vehicles come in and out of the institution. All towers are armed. I have segregation, so I put them under investigation or detention and lock them up. It's basically the premise of it. 6 block front door. We have a lot coming and a lot going. Too many of them do come back. 9 times out of 10, they fall into their old habits when they get back to their hometown, and they run with the same folks that got them in here the first time. I can pretty much tell whether or not they're coming back.
The majority of my time I've been in prison, I've been in segregation. I always looked at the officers like, you know, that they're my enemies. I had this big image of them. You know, I felt like I had to have this image to survive in this environment. All I thought I wanted was just another chance to go back and go to school. Another chance at life. You know, I wouldn't have achieved anything. It would have been like back on the same path again.
My son, Elwood Curry Johnson, he was in his third year at Miles College, 3.0 grade average, playing baseball. The scouts was looking at him for pro. And he had just made a decision to turn his life around. But sometimes your first impression always be your last impression. Even when you try to change, sometimes others do not understand.
June the 2nd, 1991, if my behind been at home, then I wouldn't have to worry about being in prison. I take responsibility for my actions now. I did do that first. I was like, man, these folks throw me in prison like this, huh, for the rest of my life for nothing. Had to be for something else. You did something. Accept what you done and let's move on. Guys had come to one of the spots I had. And it was just like a big shootout.
One was dropped in the middle of the sidewalk. From my understanding, one fell near the building and one across 3rd Avenue. I haven't been on this street but once since this happened. This will make my 2nd time on this street. And I try not to travel this street. I have no reason to.
What's up, y'all? Did y'all win? Y'all lost by 1? What about you, Head? Oh, y'all on the same team this year? Oh, you done moved up to the big dog house.
Oh, it hit me hard to find out Ed went through what he was going through. But he wasn't really one going through anything. It was us. And I didn't realize it. I cry a little bit, but I don't cry much.
See how I got in your head? Go ahead.
Sometimes I just hate that he in there. I wish he can just come home.
As a psychologist at Donaldson, I realized treatment was essential. I started looking around and I came across a prison in India that was using a meditative technique known as Vipassana. Vipassana is an intense program. The inmate has to go through it 24 hours a day, meditating for hours on end for a 10-day period of time. That particular program seemed to have a calming effect on that population. So I was thinking perhaps we could take that program and transplant it into Donaldson and run it as a regular program. When people say, gee, you're the first prison in America to actually do this program, it just sort of is incomprehensible.
I've heard Vipassana, Vipassana. My main supervisor was telling me, he said, Biggie, how you say that word? Is it Vipassana? I said, no, it's Vipassana.
The questions about what the program was were somewhat simple. Is what benefit was it going to have for us? How does anybody do it for 10 days without being able to talk? No telephones, no TV, nothing to read. And that just seemed like an incredible task to overcome. I need to sit the program so I'll have a better idea of what it's about, but I'll be honest with you, it's rather intimidating.
While I was here as a psychologist, we had a House of Healing program which highlighted doing meditation as part of our relaxation techniques. It turned out that the inmates are very receptive to meditative practices. Vipassana really takes it one step further, and that goes to the sensation level, to where it puts you literally in touch with your bodily sensations to realize these sensations are driving your behavior.
My name is Benjamin Bedegwa Iwamba Oriang. Everybody calls me OB. I'm the one who helps facilitate the House of Healing class and almost all the other mental health workshops here.
Generally speaking, these are things which we pick up. You know, these are things which change the course.
I want to help people.
Each of these things,
you know, that's one thing I want to do, is to help people.
Different experiences with our families, with our peers, in school.
The work which is done through all these courses, all the classes and whatnot, including the Vipassana class, this is something that should be used for personal development, personal growth. You know, so irrespective of whether someone is free or whether someone is incarcerated, I think such work should be done if one wants to grow personally.
I've been locked up 16 years, 8.5 years on death row in that 5/8 cell. And every morning I'd have to get up and live with the fact that I have isolated myself from everybody that I loved, isolated everybody I loved from me, and pretty much wrecked their lives. I had small children. They had to grow up in this community where their father has done this horrific act. You know, they had to go to school with kids that your father is a murderer. I thought I had a real good life going, and I blew it. My mother took us out in the country to this old deserted farmhouse. She didn't know what to do. She didn't think she could raise us. She got us out of the car, set us on the front steps, and she told me, "I want you all to be good. I love you all. I'll be back in a little while." She hugged me, hugged Danny, got in the car and left. But I was so drunk, by the time that they had started stabbing the guy, I turned into a coward. I didn't try and stop them. I was scared. I was scared they were going to leave me there like they did him. And I didn't do anything. She left us out there to die. She didn't want to live herself, is what she told me later. I didn't hear from her again until I got to death row. And my case is not a killing. It's not just a murder. It's rated as capital murder, murder robbery, but that's not what it was either. My case was a slaughter. The man was stabbed 3 times in the face, 59 times in the back, and his throat was cut 16 times, almost decapitated. I'd just as soon have been killed like that man was and left there with him. Then the people that really matter to me wouldn't have been through what they've been through.
I've had a keen interest in bringing Vipassana to corrections for quite some time. But of course, India is a very different culture, and they're open to a lot more of these kind of practices, meditation. So it's a very foreign thing.
Being a Buddhist program from the past in a Christian setting is a little questionable for a lot of people. You're in the Bible Belt in South Alabama, or in Alabama, period. We have to be progressive and be willing to take chances, and the chances that we're taking are minimal. If it doesn't work, it was a program that we tried that didn't succeed. If it does work, then I receive all the accolades. I don't see a great danger here. The only failure is the person who didn't try.
One of the things that happens in this state is that you have two models of corrections. One is a treatment-oriented model where once you lock the inmate up, you start to provide services for him. The other model is more of a punitive model where you lock the inmate up and you forget about him. That's it.
State of Alabama, in my opinion, the prison system is something else. We're probably one of the worst states in the Union about treating our prisoners the way they should be.
It's more or less a thing of captivity rather than a thing of rehabilitation. They're saying that there's no money for this and no money for that. You know, it's always money for other things, but there's never enough money for the right thing.
But they shall have everlasting life. My friend, you got life when you got Jesus Christ. Life, my friend. Live, my friend, life.
Well, I don't believe in Buddhism and stuff like that. I'm a Christian. Or any kind of witchcraft at all. So I don't believe it would help.
They give too much anyway. I mean, if they're gonna go rob stores and kill people, they don't deserve nothing. My opinion. I work every day. They should too.
I hope they do change. You know, for society's sake, I hope they change. But the 10 days of being isolated, meditating, they should have meditated before they done whatever they did to get in there.
I was very nervous to go to a maximum security prison. The atmosphere was so heavy and oppressive. I felt I was going into like the prison in Shawshank Redemption.
What happens if you bring these teachers in that have no background in corrections? How is that going to work, knowing that you've turned this part of the prison over to people just coming in off the street?
Home sweet home.
Well, when Vipassana first approached, they came up with a lot of issues such as wanting to live inside the prison with the inmates, which I found at first to be just absolutely nonsense, to tell you the truth.
We had to get ourselves established in our living quarters. There was an open toilet and a sink, so we actually had no privacy. We did actually hang up a curtain for as much privacy as we could get. And so to say the least, it was very rudimentary. That place became our haven. We found ourselves really quite fascinated with the fact that here we were in one of the United States' worst prisons, and these very lofty teachings of the Buddha were being taught in this institution. I mean, it was just mind-boggling that we were there.
Chris, what do you think, souvenir?
I think we had good reason to be scared, but I had a lot of confidence in the authorities and the warden. I felt very sort of protected. Maybe naively so, but I did.
The first thing I want to say is a little bit about what Vipassana is. For the 10 days that you're going to be taking the course, you're going to be observing a strict moral code of conduct. We go through a much more involved orientation process for the inmates so that we acclimate them to the course and allow them to let their decision to take the course sink in such a way that if they feel that this is not the time for them to sit a course, they can comfortably decide not to before the course actually begins. And let me just say, if you're not nervous about the 10-day course, you should be. It's absolutely natural to have doubts about your own capacity to get through the 10-day course, doubts about the 10-day course itself, about the benefits, how hard it's going to be. For the first 9 days of the course, amongst themselves, there's complete silence. Then there are